Welcome to The Happy Writer, a show about creating and sustaining a long-term author career. My name is Patty Jansen, writer of science fiction and fantasy. I've published independently since 2011. This show covers motivation, diversification, learning new skills, and your place in your career. Come on in and be happy. This is The Happy Writer, Episode 5, Advice to Beginning Authors. What would I say to my beginning author self if I were just starting today? I really got started in two parts. I started writing in 2003, but at that time there was no self-publishing, or at least no path that was easy or well regarded. I learned to write in writing workshops, where we critiqued each other's work. I went to courses, I read books, and when I finally got stories and books that were ready for publication, I sent them out to magazines and publishers. I waited. I got rejections, some of them with next to no information, some of them more than 6 months after I submitted them. Sometimes you got no response at all. It was very frustrating. But at that time, it was the only acceptable way of getting published. When self-publishing started in 2009 and 2010, I was still waiting and watching to see what the effect of self-publishing would be on author careers. At that time, everyone was worried that you would torpedo your career if you self-published. Of course, that turned out not to be the case. So I jumped in 2011. Now, you will say, why is this important? Because the people who are starting now don't really face that kind of stigma anymore. It illustrates why so many writers of that generation were very successful. We had learned to write. We had spent years honing our craft so that editors would be interested in our work. We went to workshops. We spent a lot of time refining our plots and our writing style. Today's writers are much too impatient. Many self-published writers jump in before their manuscripts are ready. They worry about learning to publish before they can write. Learning to write is a highly subjective thing. It depends on genre. It depends on what your reader expects. But there are still certain rules that you have to stick to at least most of the time to make readers able to understand and enjoy your book. Writers talk about advertising, but the best ad is the book itself. If a reader really enjoys it, if a reader can understand it, if the reader doesn't find any errors or inconsistent plots or flat characters, if the reader can really get into it, that reader will be your fan, and that reader will recommend your book to other readers. The book is the best ad. You can waste a lot of ad money if the book doesn't deliver, so please learn to write before you learn to publish. The second point I would like to say is that you should write more and worry less. It's kind of related to the first point, because writing more is practice, and writing is quite often compared with playing music. You don't expect to pick up an instrument and jump right into the symphony orchestra. You have to learn to write, and learning you do through practice. So practice and write a lot of books. Beginning writers worry a lot about all the stuff they need to learn for publishing, and to be honest, all the stuff you need to know is overwhelming. But start in one corner and work your way outwards. Make sure you never forget to write. Worry about the things you can control and not the ones that you can't. For example, a book launch. A book launch is an artifact of traditional publishing. A book launch in traditional publishing is geared towards booksellers, because they are the ones who come to the launch. Self-published writers try to launch their books in the same way. with a big splash and lots of publicity. They think they need to push their book hard when it's just come out. There are some advantages to launching a book with a big splash, but it's really an advanced technique. As a beginning writer, you should worry about your next book, and not so much about the launch, and definitely not spend huge amounts of money on it. People carry on as if a poor launch is a death knell for a book. Nothing could be further from the truth. When you're writing, you're working towards a body of work, and that body of work you can later use to create better ads and to create sales funnels and all these things that you don't yet understand, but that are very effective if you have a lot of books. But first you have to have those books. So write, just don't worry too much about anything else. The third piece of advice I would give is to become part of a community of writers. All the things that you need to know and little tips and tricks are not written down anywhere, and there isn't anywhere central where you could learn them. You learn them from your fellow writers because someone has just found out something that works really well, or a website is offering something new, or there is a special promotion going that's only by invitation. By knowing your fellow authors and engaging with them, you can find out a lot. You can be invited into things. You can learn things that you wouldn't find out in any other way. Your writing community is also where you can ask questions, where you can vent your frustrations without looking like an idiot, where you can commiserate and make friends. It's also where you can find out how to solve problems. For example, if there is something going on with a retailer and other people share your problem, or whether the problem is related to just yourself. You can learn what other writers are doing in terms of their websites or selling, or other formats they're offering their books, or many different things that you might want to try. At this point in time, in 2021, most of these communities are on Facebook, but I'm sure that will change in the future. I am not a general user of Facebook and I never visit my profile, but you don't need to. Just make a profile, never post anything to it, and just use your account to join these communities. Next, learn that marketing is a lot more than just buying ads. People will go, now how can I advertise my book? And other people will recommend that they buy an ad here or there, pay-per-click advertising or some list-based service. But advertising is a lot more. It is also related to point 1. If your book does not deliver, you can throw a lot of ad money at it and still have next to no effect. A well-written book, preferably in a series, is its own marketing. The cover is its own marketing. The blurb is its own marketing. In case you don't know, the blurb is the paragraph or two that describes the book on the retailer pages, usually also referred to as back cover. It is not a summary of the plot, but rather a paragraph that contains some teasers to make people want to buy the book. All these things need to be in harmony with each other, and together, as a package, they sell the book. It's absolutely worth the time and money spent figuring out how to sell your book best and how to optimize its presentation. Are the genre and the cover in sync? Is the blurb as clear and enticing as can be? If not, then take some courses or read some books, spend the time, and your ad money will go much further. There are many different types of advertising that don't involve spending any money whatsoever, that are still advertising, that are not buying ads. So please don't spend too much money on it before you learn the ropes, because you can spend an awful lot of money for no return. This brings me to point 5. Try to spend less than you earn. If you're spending a lot of money without return, work out why that is before you spend more money. You really cannot spend your way into bestseller status. Some people will still say that you need to spend a lot of ad money in order to get your book to sell. While this may be working for them, it is also a very advanced technique and requires you to know how to advertise and how to optimize your ads. It is an advanced technique that you can employ if you really like fiddling with ads. It's not something I would recommend for beginning writers. Just write, optimize your books, and let the books themselves do the marketing. Your catalogue is supposed to be making you money, so please do not spend more than you earn, and definitely don't spend any money you can't afford to lose. It's absolutely heartbreaking to see a beginning writer splash out on a beautiful but inappropriate cover for a book that isn't ready for the big time. It's heartbreaking, I tell you that. The last point I'm going to make is that the best time to start is now. You will hear a lot of stories about the golden time of self-publishing supposedly being somewhere between 2009 and 2011. I was there in those days, and I can tell you the time was not golden at all. Definitely not for all of us. Maybe some people put up some 99-cent books and had huge successes, but many of those people have now disappeared. We had very few resources. It was very hard to find editors and cover designers, so we all made do with crappy covers, and we had not even half or even a third of the resources we have available to us now. Formatting was hard, marketing was hard, everything was just hard. So don't use the fact that you didn't get started in that time as an excuse not to start now. In fact, I would like to say that you shouldn't let anything be an excuse as to why your book is not doing well, why you're not doing something, because you're just making excuses. Start now and do what you want to do. Make a plan and follow it. Don't worry that the best time was in the past. I can assure you that it was not. Thank you for listening to the Happy Writer Show. Check out links and other episodes on my website at pattyjansen.com and my YouTube channel.